Good morning, beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sharice if this is your first time here, and hello. So y'all, I have honestly made like a few videos that I have not posted, and I will probably just end up deleting them. I don't know, sometimes I think that I just need to like voice stuff and get it out of my body, and then after that's done, I'm like, I don't think this is something that I want to share with the world. And sometimes I still do if you watch any of my videos of me having a mental breakdown. But anyway, you guys, I have kind of reached this place recently. So a little bit of backstory, in case you don't know, I have been nomadic for the most part for the past 6 years. A little over 6 years ago, I moved into my Volvo station wagon at the time and moved up to Humboldt County from Sacramento, and thus began my nomadic journey. I will also add to this moving there to a place that I knew nobody. And anyway, I recently settled down into a Eastern Arizona community. It is not a long-term thing for me. I hope not. I'm pretty sure it is not a long-term thing. It is one of those things that I had initially decided to leave about a month or two ago, and then I changed my mind and decided, you know what, I think it would actually be really good for my mental and emotional stability, since I struggle with some pretty intense bipolar symptoms, to learn to have stability in my life in hopes that that would help to create more emotional and mental stability in my life. So here I am. I am working as a bartender and I love my job. I will say that I actually made a video recently about the things that I don't like about this community and this job, and we'll see if I do decide to post it. I think that it was something that I don't really talk to many people about, and maybe it was just one of those things that I needed to feel like I was talking to somebody about and get it out. But anyway, you guys, ever since I decided that I was going to stay for longer, I kind of feel like everything started to feel a little bit out of alignment. And I don't think that that's because I made the wrong choice. I believe that there is a reason for everything, and I do think that I am on the perfect timeline to creating what I want with my life, and this is where I felt called to stay for longer. At the same time, like, it's kind of out of character. It's out of character. I'm literally shaking right now. It's kind of out of character for me to have decided to stay rather than jump back on the road and go up to Washington like I'd planned and continue on my little nomad journey, which I do wish to continue at some point down the road. But even the algorithm on my phone went out of whack. Like, I don't have social media, but I do have my YouTube channel, and I do go on YouTube and Pinterest. But I love watching videos, especially like on spirituality and psychology and philosophy, and that's the majority of what I watch on YouTube, even though I actually don't think I watch that much on YouTube, just as things feel drawn to me, as well as like healing frequencies and such. But once I decided to stay, it's like everything that my algorithm was bringing up to me felt completely out of alignment and with what the choice that I had made, and everything just, nothing fit right. And I just felt this like, ugh, from pretty much everything that was popping up, other than frequencies and sound healing videos and the likes. And then I started to also feel out of alignment with everybody in my life. I won't say everybody, but that's kind of where that video came from that I made, that I might post about the things that I don't enjoy about out here, which I think that I try to be a very positive person, but I also try to be very honest about the negatives, and there are some intense negatives that are just so extremely out of alignment with who I personally am as a person. Stuff that goes on, especially in this bar atmosphere, it is a very conservative, more racist, anti-gay community, and that's kind of the opposite of me. And while I can find the light in that, of I bring a different element to this environment and can help to teach and raise awareness and kind of enlighten people on that it's okay to be different than what you've been used to your whole entire life, it has gotten to the point where I just kind of feel like I want to push most people away, because it started to like kind of grate on me a little bit, and it started to irritate me a little bit, and it's made me feel very alone out here. And that would probably be one of the main struggles that I've been dealing with lately, is loneliness and feeling a need for isolation. And which brings me to kind of what made me think to create this video. Is I realized this morning, and it's okay, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Last night, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when I started realizing that I felt kind of this deep boredom due to my loneliness and self-isolation, which I do feel is a good choice, because I think that a lot of the people that are in my environment right now are not people that I want to be around all the time. So I do think that it is a more necessary isolation, which we all go through periods of that, especially during growth and transitional periods, and perhaps periods of waiting and in between. And I started to realize that I was just very bored, and out of nowhere, my algorithms seemed to switch. And I didn't even talk to anybody about this. My algorithm on my YouTube channel switched, and videos of loneliness and isolation and it being a purposeful point in your life started popping up. And so I watched a few of those, and it was great to make me feel less alone and a little bit more in alignment with my life. But what got me was this morning when I realized that I've been here before. And not just in a way of like, oh yeah, I've experienced loneliness and isolation much of my life. No, I've been here before. I'm just in a different place than I was the last time. And it makes me wonder, and I'm really into numerology, and I feel like there is a deep connection with this when it comes to patterns, cycles, and the number 7 specifically, because the last time I was in this kind of place, very different for sure, I've grown very much, different place, different job, different environment, different people, but the feelings and kind of what life is pushing me into, it does feel, oh man, it does feel a little bit like a cocoon, like an isolation cocoon. 7 years ago, so I got on the road 2020, February of 2020. 1 year before that, about December a year ago, I got a job working at this little mom and pop cafe after not working for probably about 6 or 7 months. I had left my previous job working as a meat clerk at Sprouts for a bunch of reasons, but basically I was a severe alcoholic and I was using methadone and I was looking for heroin on the street, and I realized that I needed to make a massive turnaround in my life, otherwise I was going to continue down a even darker path than I had been on. So I left my job and I started a sobriety journey. That was my first time being homeless in actually Washington, up Bellingham, Rockport area in Washington. I was homeless out there for 2 months trying to get sober, living with my brother and one of his nomad friends in this kind of broken down RV. It was such a magical experience and it completely changed my life around. But anyway, I went back in about August to Sacramento where I lived, and I was still jobless for months. I kind of did some little odd jobs where I could find it, but that December I finally got a job, and because of my effort in creating massive change in my life away from those addictive patterns and the habits and self-harm, I had basically cut out almost everybody in my life. I had just like, and it wasn't just like, oh, I hate you, I'm cutting you out. I just kind of realized that a lot of those people weren't real friends. And now that I wasn't in addiction and drinking all the time, I didn't want to be around those people anymore because I knew that they weren't real friends. And I knew that they didn't care about me, and many of them didn't even like me, and a lot of them would just talk shit. And you know how this is, especially if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, you will still be around those people because you're all within that addiction. And when you're in that addiction, you kind of start to not care as much as long as you got somebody to be addicted with. And so anyway, I got this job in December, and for the next year, I was extremely reclusive, just kind of on that grind. I basically just worked, and I'd go home, and a lot of the days I didn't drink any alcohol at all, and when I did, I would generally just have a tall can of PBR, and then I'd go to bed at like 7 o'clock or 6:30 every single night because I had to be at work at 3:30, 4 a.m. the next day. And this was just my mode, dude. Like, my parents had just gone through a divorce, and most of the family was gone away from home. I did live in my childhood. I was living back in my childhood home at this time. So I was basically just with my dad and my brother when he was there. But I spent a lot of time just alone in that house, and I didn't really hang out with people. And I remember I was very, very lonely because I wasn't going to go back into those addictive habits. I didn't want to just go to the bar all the time anymore. I'd worked really hard on separating myself from that. So here I was, grinding, working full-time at a cafe, going to bed super early, waking up super early, and I just didn't really have much of a social life. And I remember, like, I was, even after overcoming that addiction and stepping back from it and getting back into the flow of work after all the fucking issues that I'd gone through, I wasn't okay necessarily inside, and I was going through a massive spiritual awakening where my psychic senses were waking the fuck up. And it could be really overwhelming once your sensitivities to everything start just amplifying. It can be really difficult being in a normal person job, especially if you are going through that initial spiritual awakening, and you're starting to get really sensitive in a way that you weren't before. Everything starts to get a little bit more difficult. Being around people is more difficult. Working a normal job is more difficult. You stop doing the same things, just like I stopped drinking in the same way that I was before, and I stopped doing all these drugs. And I remember I would go to the park near my home. It was like a 15-minute walk, probably 10-15-minute walk from my house. And I'd walk down there, and almost daily I would sit in this grass field and I would meditate for up to 5 hours every single day, almost every single day. And I'm not exaggerating right now at all. I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have social media. I didn't have friends at the time. My best friend had moved to Georgia to be with her husband and have her baby out there. So my best friend was gone. I didn't hang out with people. So that's what I did to be able to cope with being back in a normal job and having this extreme awakening and sensitivity experience. And I remember it being such I look back on it now as such a magical period of my life because of how much inner and spiritual growth that I created during that time. But I also remember how lonely it was and how often I would cry from this loneliness. And I think that I'm realizing I'm back in that. I'm taking a step back from certain habits that have kind of revisited. I'm back in a job that I love, even though there's a lot of aspects that I don't necessarily love about it. I'm in an extreme growing period of my life, a kind of cocoon period, and now that I can look back at it as that, this cocoon, this self-isolation period where, you know what, I was going into a place, I was transitioning out of an older version of myself and into a newer, beautiful one. And sometimes when you're doing that, you have to go through this type of isolation and loneliness. And no, I do not think that that is always necessary. I do think that you can transform and be in that cocoon state within a community and within relationships or a relationship. I just personally have not experienced that yet myself. But anyway, thinking back on this time of my life 7 years ago, where I had taken a massive step back from everything and decided I'm going to change. I'm not going to let that control my life. I'm not going to let that make me continue down a path of mistakes and self-shame. And I entered into this place of just learning to love myself. This is also about the time that I started doing positive affirmations in front of the mirror. Life-changing, y'all. Highly recommend it. Highly, highly recommend it. And now that I can sit here and like, I kind of was like in this like, this like kind of lull state about where I'm at right now and feeling this loneliness and isolation and kind of feeling out of alignment. Having spirit connect in my mind this kind of 7-year cycle and making me look back to 7 years ago when I was in the same exact type of cocoon space of not really moving, not really doing anything, just kind of going with the flow and trusting the timing of my life, even though maybe that's not exactly how I looked at it at the time, has helped me to refocus now and feel less discouraged for where I'm at, and has helped me to feel less stuck with where I'm at. And for that in itself, I'm so grateful for that period of my life, because it gives me something to look back on and be like, hey, perhaps I am also just in this transitional cocooning period of my life. And you know what? Cycles and patterns are real. And if this truly is that type of season as well, that means that I am about to flow out of it. And that doesn't mean necessarily in the next couple days or weeks or months. Like, I was in that period of my life for a year, a little over a year, before I moved into my Volvo and started my nomadic journey. I'm halfway through this year, guys. So for all I know, it could be another 6 months. It could be another year of this. It could be just another month. Who knows? But it is very encouraging to myself to know that, hey, this is a transitional period. And I can use this time, I can use the relationship that I have with my work and allow that to build myself financial stability, as well as working on that mental stability by just kind of allowing myself to immerse myself in this feeling of being stable. And I know that might sound kind of weird to some people, but that's literally what I'm doing here. I'm not just actively working like, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do to fix myself. Well, yes, there are certain things where I'm like, you know what, I am packing my body full of nutrients and vitamins, and I am just focusing as much on loving myself as much as possible. At the same time, part of this creating stability is literally allowing myself to be. Just allowing myself to be in this environment and in this mode of living for a little longer, so it gets it in my brain. Charisse is capable of stability. Charisse is capable of financial stability at 30 years old. Charisse is capable of stability. I'm reminding myself and convincing myself of what I am capable of simply by being in this. I don't necessarily have to do anything super extracurricular to teach myself that, because I'm teaching it just by doing it. And like I said, looking back on 7 years ago, where I was in this kind of similar type of mode and state with similar emotions and feelings that I'm feeling right now, it is reminding me to use this time and not waste it. Use it to meditate, to do things that create a healthier version of myself. I've been thinking lately about all the things that I could do. Like, I just bought some more vitamins. Working out. I have really been slacking on yoga lately and meditating. And I think that I want to get back into listening to the types of videos that I was back then, which I used to listen just for hours to Alan Watts Chill Step mixes, which is basically like an hour. They're usually about an hour long remixes. They're musical, and they put like music to it and sound that is very kind of like inspirational feeling to parts of lectures from Alan Watts, which is my favorite philosopher. For anybody who does not know him, I highly recommend you look it up. Look up Alan Watts Chill Step. And if you don't know, he is, I would say, a similar philosopher to him would be Eckhart Tolle. More present day. Alan Watts is a little bit older. And yeah, I used to just listen to these for hours, and it always was waking something up inside of myself. And I remember that the level of mental stability, like the level of just self-empowerment that I had over my mind during that year was insane. I could hear and I could sense and I could feel things. And to be honest, I would say what I learned during that year was probably some of the greatest lessons I've learned ever. Just by being alone and meditating for hours every day, and by listening to these remixes and these lectures, just wow, I'm like, maybe this is a call for me to return to that. And while I do think lectures and listening to great teachers of philosophy, spirituality, psychology, theology, whatever it is that you enjoy and that kind of inspires your soul, or if you, whatever path that you're on, while listening to these teachers is really great and beneficial, I do encourage you to also remember that you have it inside of yourself. And I know that's so cliche to say that you have all the answers inside of yourself, but it is absolutely true. A lot of these things that I gathered literally were just during meditation, in silence, in silent meditation, looking at nature and observing and feeling energy around me. And that is super, super self-empowering. So I think that I'm being called to do a little bit of both. I think that I pretty much desperately need to spend more time out in nature and around plants and enjoying that stillness and just sitting in it, because it's okay to be bored. And this is something that I've heard on a lot of people's videos, and it's true though. Allow yourself to be bored more often. And I'm not saying that from the aspect of like, I love being bored. I don't necessarily. If I'm bored, it kind of, it kind of sucks in that moment. But at the same time, when you choose to direct your energy within boredom towards something that is beneficial to your overall growth, or even to something that might encourage you to find enjoyment in that boredom, that is amazing and that's beautiful. And it actually does, rather than like, it's not just enjoying the boredom, you're transforming that boredom into something constructive and something that is actually very creative in the moment. So whatever that might be for you, whether it is something that is more hands-on creative like art, or I enjoy dance. I also love art. I love tattooing. It could be positive affirmations in the mirror. It could be listening to sound healing and meditating. It could be looking at wildlife and plants or going on a walk. Whatever inspires your heart in that moment of boredom is fucking badass. It's fucking badass, guys. So just, it's okay to allow yourself to be bored. And I'm reminding myself this, and I'm taking my power back from that kind of energy of boredom and making myself realize, like, I can create in this. I don't have to be wilding out and partying and doing all this insane fucking shit to be having a good time still. Like, girl, remember who the fuck you are. Jeez, get out of here. So, yeah, you guys, I actually have to go to work right now, but I hope that you enjoyed my video. Please do like and subscribe. It helps my channel grow, or you don't have to. I know I've heard some people are like, I fucking hate it when they tell you to do that. I'm like, you realize that you just don't have to. But if you feel like it and you would like to be along for my crazy and wild journey, I would love it. I would love to have you here. Please be kind. That's all I ask. And yeah, you guys, just making sure my mic's still on. I hope that you have an absolutely beautiful and amazing day. And I hope to see you next time. I believe you and I love you.